Let's talk about the book. Where are you guys with your launch? I mean, what happened since the last time we did our interview? We did the audio a couple of months back. The blog has grown substantially, actually exponentially, and a lot of people have gotten wind of Slicefixer. Like constant emails about Slicefixer's technique and all this stuff, and I answer them to the best of my ability. And maybe this second conversation we're having, we'll have a brief interview to some of the people who are just getting around to getting to know you. And so my question would be, well, where are you guys with the book?
Well, it's funny you asked that. I actually called Rob today to find out where we were because he's the guy doing all the hard work. You know, he said that I've known for a little while that we would have a first draft completed sometime this fall. You know, because I am smart enough to understand that in certain quarters, whatever we produce is going to be scrutinized pretty seriously. And not only that, I told Rob when we started, you know, a couple of things. One, that it's hard for me to believe anybody would really care what I have to say about a golf swing, but since apparently some people do, you know, I want to do this right, and you know, I want to try to leave no stone unturned, and I want to make sure that we're attempting to write a classic, you know, along the lines of Percy Boomer on Learning Golf, or I name a bunch of them that have stood the test of time. And, you know, I don't know how long Mr. Boomer's been deceased, but it's been a while, but his book is still an awful good one. And, you know, the same thing with any number of guys that wrote golf books, instruction books, or whatever. You know, I'm not saying it's going to be a classic. It may be a piece of junk that ends up in the bargain bin, you know, but we're at least attempting to write something right. And I told him right out front, I said, no, we're not writing a book to try to set up the next book and the next book and the next book and the DVD series and all that stuff. I mean, that's not what we're trying to do. We're trying to write something that's going to be beneficial in some way to every golfer. And it may not be the golf swing stuff, because the golf swing stuff's basically about half of it as I envision it. I don't know how much it'll be. This thing may end up like Gone with the Friggin' Wind or something, but the goal was to write one book. Mr. Ballard wrote one book, and that was it. Mr. Hogan wrote two, but once he said what he had to say in 5 lessons, that was it. I really believe along those lines. I'm not saying we might not write another one somewhere along the line, but it's not designed to. I see so many guys out there that I won't name names, but they write a book and they get some degree of success on the PGA Tour, and they write a book, and it's to set up the next book. It's like sequels almost, and it's all about marketing and making money. You know, and that's just not what I wanted to do. So with those two things combined, to try to get something right in your own mind, something that you want to, when you look at it, it's almost like a lifelong, I won't say it's not the end of the journey, I certainly hope, but it's something that may live beyond me for a long time. I'd like to try to do something and do it right. And so it's taken a lot of time. Plus, like I said, with trees falling on houses and all these other things, and me being a one-man army, that drags it out even longer. And poor Rob sitting up there in Canada, you know, I'm probably driving him crazy. I mean, you know, I'll send him DVDs. He's probably got 50 DVDs with, you know, a couple of hours worth of information on it. And, you know, I'll have these epiphanies during the day sometimes where I'll think of a different way to say the same thing I've said 1,000 times, but I come up with a different way to say it that I think's ingenious at the time, and I'll record that lesson and I'll send that as a disc to him, and so that he can see where I kind of went off on a little different tangent than I had in the past, because I don't know which is going to make the most sense, because I have a really squirrely brain, Ralph, and I mean it goes off on tangents sometimes, and I'll come up, it's like I've built a few teaching aids that I thought were pretty good, but for every one I come up with that's pretty good, there's 10 that are just junk. And at the time I went back there and started gluing and sawing and drilling, I thought it was going to be ingenious, and ended up being a total disaster. So you want to try to get it right. That's the first thing. And I know we're going to get criticism. I mean, you know, you're not going to please everybody. You're going to have the boo parade, you know, the boo birds, as I call them. You know, they're going to be out in force. You're going to have, I mean, that's just the way it is. But I think because of what I've done, I have a degree of proven performance to a degree. I mean, we've produced some pretty good golf swings, and especially considering that we're not in New York. I mean, you know, it's not like I have access to 10 billion kids. It's only about I estimate about 1 out of every 25 kids has some degree of sincerity about being good at this. And those are the ones you're going to get the results from. But it's still a long process, several years, before you actually see some semblance of a finished product. And it's really never finished, you know what I mean? But you can definitely look at it and say, you know what, that's a pretty good golf swing. And you have to work through these little things one at a time. And so the book is a somewhat of a labor of love. And poor Rob, like I said, he's probably going crazy trying to deal with my ADD, rear end. But, we're trying to do it right. And it's the same thing with the website stuff and all that. Alex Regaro, Hogan fan, came up with a brilliant idea, I thought, which was to integrate the book with the web so that when you're reading the book, you can actually go to the web and see actual footage explaining what you're reading. And because one of the biggest problems with books is a written word is while it can be pretty descriptive if you're a good writer, it's nowhere near explaining, really truly explaining like a three-dimensional image. And if you can combine the two, you've got an opportunity to really teach people some things. And I kind of have my own little system to, if you want to swing it in some similar to what these kids are doing or whatever, this is how it's done. And it's done, this piece and this, and it's not like it's 400 pieces, but it's done a little bit at a time. And there's so much stuff, Jesus. That's why I've always said Mac O'Grady will never publish a book. Somebody will publish it for him when he's dead, but he won't, because he's never going to be convinced he's got it right. He'll never do it because he'll never be convinced he's got it right. And he's not going to put his name on it unless he thinks it's right. And when you're as like O'Grady is, and you're trying to figure out every pattern of a golf swing that's ever worked and break it down to the nth degree, my God, I mean, that would run me crazy trying to do that. But he's so much smarter than I am, he can comprehend it. But the gist of the deal is, he told me that we'd have a first draft pretty quick, and then he's going to send it down here to me, and then we have to literally go through it line by line, word by word, because it has to sound like a semi-redneck teaching pro and not a fully vested English professor. And then once we get it right, then we've already contacted an agent. I have a friend of mine that's been published 3 times, and he's contacted his agent, and he's willing to help us with it. And it's pretty tough to get a golf instruction book published nowadays. I mean, if you want to attach Hogan's picture on the cover, you can get it published. But as an individual, it's hard to do unless you have a big tour presence. It's hard to do, and I don't have that. I think I can prove some demand because of the internet, and we have essentially sort of a semi-proven demand, but how that's going to go over with publishing houses, we don't know. We'll see, and so the next hurdle, once we get I would estimate it would be probably early next year before we have a finished product ready to go to the publisher. And then in the meantime, there's some hoops you have to go through to get a publishing deal. And Rob is setting us up through my friend Ray Blackston in South Carolina to try to get us through those hoops. And, we'll just see how it goes. And I know that I really don't want to do an ebook. That's not what if I had to do it, I guess I would. But we'll see. I mean, right now, the economic times we're in, and honestly, nonfiction golf is not real popular. But I think we've got a proven demand to a degree, and I see some of these guys getting published, and I just scratch my head. I mean, how in the world did that guy get published? So I think we'll do all right. But I would say it's going to be sometime next year. I think we'll have the websites up. We're working pretty hot and heavy on those things, and they should be done before the first of the year to some degree or another. And then we'll just kind of go from there. And, and like I said, I've got so many things going on to an extent now. There's a possibility we may relocate. I have a friend of mine that's buying golf courses. He's part of a group that's buying golf courses all over the United States. And so there's a very definite possibility we'll relocate, hopefully, to a little bigger market. And, for a number of reasons. One, obviously, you can make more money than you can here because it's such a small area. But two, and the thing that intrigues me is being able to go in a bigger market and having more opportunity to help more kids in hopes of finding a few of them, finding one of those gyms a little more often. But it's tough around here. I mean, growing up here, I have to live with a lot of stuff. Baggage, I guess, is what they call it. But whether it was my doing or my father ruling on somebody's divorce or lawsuit, I mean, you just have to deal with this crap. And I'm kind of tired of it. It's a smaller area. It's kind of a big Mayberry. And I expect to see Andy and Barney, come in the range any moment wanting golf lessons. And so it would be nice to relocate. So we've got, a lot of things besides just the golf book and website. So it's hard for me to juggle all this stuff. But, so far so good. And, and Robbie's a heck of a writer and a really good guy. And a really good guy, and I used to appreciate him being so patient with me through all the stuff that we've been through over the last 2 or 3 years. But we're attempting to write something worth reading, and so that in answer to your question, I always tell kids that they're somewhat impatient. I have a saying where I say, "You are where you are. You're gonna get where you're going when you get there." The book is where it is, and it's going to get where it's going when it gets there. It's not being written, with some master plan of we're going to make X jillion dollars or any of that stuff. It's just going to be ready when it's ready. But honestly, I would be disappointed if we didn't have it ready by some of next year.
Okay, so the irony is that I get a lot of publishers send me notices of upcoming books, and they're going to send them to me if I write about them. And right, there's a lot of stuff out there that's being published. I name people that they just need something to write about, and there's really nothing, there's no substance to it. A recent book came out about Hogan. I'm going to get into that one, but
I know. I've seen a couple of them. I mean, if it's one of them, like one of them came from the Great White North, and I saw that thing, and I read about 30 pages sitting in a Barnes & Noble, and I thought, how did this guy get published? And I mean, this guy didn't have a foggy friggin' clue. But you know what? More power to him. He got published, and I'm sure it helped his retirement account, and, good for him. But, gosh, I don't want to be one of those guys.
I think we can rest assured that with your attention to detail, your passion for the game, which most people should be able to just listen to this interview and hear the way you project your thoughts about the game. It's just not a run-of-the-mill book, and that's the kind of stuff I'm interested in. I'm not, when I first started trying to study Hogan, I was at Columbia University, and I had access to every library in the world, basically. I even got some books from Cuba. I was studying the Rosenberg trial, and I got Ethel Rosenberg's love letters to Julius Rosenberg while they were in Sing Sing from the University of Havana, because it wasn't even available at this point here. But anyway, I was trying to find there were only 2 books written about Hogan. There was Demerit's book, My Partner Ben Hogan, and Hogan, the Man Who Played for Glory by Greg Grexton. I've always tried to look for good literature and good stuff, and there's this new there seems to be a market segment now where people are just targeting Hogan's secret, and everybody has a different angle on what the secret was. And, it's apparently a lucrative market because people are fascinated by it. I personally believe there was no secret. If it makes people feel better believing that they're going to get some kind of secret or magical move or magical device or anything to kind of propel them to the next level overnight, then,
Yeah, good luck. If they find it, hear it. I'd love to hear it. That's funny you mentioned that. As far as Hogan's secret, that's interesting. I mean, I think he revealed it in August 8th, 1955 Life magazine. When he said, "This is my secret," I think he was being very sincere. I don't think he took their money and BS'd anybody. But what he described in August 8th, 55 was the last pieces of a puzzle. And if you don't have all the rest of the pieces of the puzzle, first of all, that article is totally worthless. And there was no way, in August 8th, 55, he was still very heavily competing, and there's no way he's going to give his competition something he knows is going to help him. And he knew full well it was going to screw up 99% of them. And I think he was being very truthful. I think there's a lot of little nuggets here and there that if you really study it and really read it, you can put the picture together, in my opinion. And but boy, do I see what you're talking about. I mean, I just have a hard time with that. I really believe that a teacher, once you've developed your own name and kind of are known for your own gig, then it's okay if you want to write about Mr. Hogan. I mean, that's your opinion, and you're privileged to do it. But it's certainly your right to do it. But when I see guys that are pretty unknown and they write a book and they slap Hogan's secret and they throw his image on the cover, I just to me that's pimping and prostituting off of his legacy. I just have a really hard time with that. In fact, there was a while there on Golf Works, I was almost like the Hogan legacy protector or something. I mean, I would get really stirred up when this stuff came out. And then I finally realized, I'm never, you may win some points on some battle over some book, but there's always going to be another book, and there's always going to be another pimp artist. And some of these books are pretty good. I mean, they really have some good stuff in them. But I just have a problem with trying to capitalize, particularly since he's no longer around to dispute it. When a man's no longer around to defend himself or dispute these claims, then I have a problem with it a little bit. And you get all this secondhand. Well, Hogan told. I mean, you hear it all the time. Well, Hogan told my first cousin's dog sitter that he does. And I mean. Are we going to go back? I mean, and he's not around to dispute it. I mean, and
the irony is that Hogan sued, and it was a precedent-setting case.
Absolutely.
His likeness was used, and this is not. You're right. He's no longer around to protect his legacy. And he probably wouldn't even address half the speculation. He'd probably. I would think that if Mr. Hogan was alive, he would just, whatever.
I think there's some things he would have. I saw a comment. Well, I'm not even going to get into it because I don't like. I try to avoid at all costs criticizing other instructors, so I'm not even going to get into that. But I'm just going to stay off that. But I see these comments, and I know they're BS. I mean, they don't even make any sense from an intellectual standpoint of view or common sense standpoint of view. But then having grown up around in this part of the world and being familiar and friends with so many people that were outstanding players in Fort Worth and that knew the man really well, I know it's BS. And, and this guy's got he's got a publishing deal, and he's got a book out. And I know that 3/4 of the crap in there is BS. But Mr. and Miss Hogan are no longer around to defend themselves or say that's BS. And so the guy's making a ton of dough off of this book. And I see it so often. And I don't mind it. But this is all my opinion. That's one thing. I was really famous on GolfWorks for writing IMOP because I wanted folks to know, I'm not trying to tell you this is the way it is. It's just in my opinion. But in my opinion, God, there's a lot of Hogan pimpers out there. I think the Hogan Foundation, they sign off on a lot of this stuff, and I guess they're just trying to raise money, and anything that they think might raise money for the foundation, they're willing to sign off on it. And I think Mr. Hogan would have had a problem with that, honestly. I think as private as he was, and as much as he believed in hard work, and you're going to dig it out of the ground, you got to earn it. I think he would have had a problem with a lot of this stuff that's been attached to the Hogan Foundation. And I'm not saying that he wouldn't have approved it and let it happen, but as private as he was, I really find it hard to believe that some of this junk that's out there he would have signed off on. And unfortunately, he didn't have any children, and he doesn't have anybody to defend his legacy. But that doesn't mean anything. You see kids of famous parents that when they die, the kids prostitute out their parents' achievements, and so I don't know if that would have made any difference. But I just hold Mr. Hogan in a degree of reverence above and beyond any other professional golfer. And I've met most of the best. I've been lucky enough in my lifetime to have met just about all of them somewhere along the line, and even have had a reasonable audience with several of them. And he's just always been my idol, I guess. I always say Bill Rogers was my mentor, but Mr. Hogan was my idol. And so I have a problem with that to a degree. But you know what? As I get older, it's live and let live, and look, going and fighting all these battles, I want to help people become better golfers, and I'm not going to be successful all the time, and I know that. But every minute that you spend in one of these circuitous arguments over Mr. Hogan is a moment away from my family, or a moment away from trying to do something productive in golf, or it's a moment away from sitting in a deer stand or on a duck blind or in a fishing. And so it's just it's not worth it. And I don't have the energy to do it anymore. As you can see, I'm probably horrifying the viewers. Look like a blue. But the point, I guess, is that his legacy should stand on its own. And I see, a lot of things nowadays being over commercialized and in a way tarnishing his legacy. And I have a problem with that. Honestly, I don't like that, and I think it would be fascinating to get a bunch of the best Hogan authorities in the same room at the same time and have a productive discussion about Mr. Hogan and his golf swing and other things, as long as they could get along and not want to fist fight. I'm not interested in having one of those deals like Jim Flick and Ballard did down in New Orleans about 15 years ago. That's one of the funniest things I've ever seen in my life, but they were ready to kill each other by the end of the fireside chat. It was I thought it was going to be WDF. But I wouldn't be interested in anything like that. But if you want to have a productive conversation about things that we thought, and try to come to some degree of common belief, that would be great. I don't think it's possible to do it anymore. I mean, I see my business, honestly, Ralph, turning more and more like politics. I mean, it's just dirty. It's slanderous. It's, I believe very strongly, if you don't have anything good to say, don't say anything. And why me belittling some other teacher? I mean, how is that going to improve my teaching business? So, and I see the same thing with Mr. Hogan. I mean, I really do. I see some of the stuff that's written, and I just roll my eyes. I just can't believe it. I mean, it's really belittling. Yeah, it's just belittling his legacy is the best way to put it.
Well, he did a lot to not cheapen himself. He's very much about class, and he was more concerned about his image as a gentleman and things along those lines. I think these people have just gone off to the races with all the BS they can come up with, and it's about money. And
absolutely.
And if you come and you challenge somebody's revenue stream, whether it's legitimate or not, you open up a can of worms. And it's just like you say, your business it's more like the honor system is gone by the wayside many years ago. And if I have to do something, or if I feel threatened, or the general consensus is, I personally don't approach things that way. But if I have to do something, if you present a threat to me, I may have to do something to level the playing field. And a lot of times, what that results in is petty pot shots, slander, innuendo, rumors, whatever it takes. And that's a shame that life has come to that. Like I told you, if you don't hate the player, hate the game. I was one of the best at what I did. I couldn't deal with the. I said, this isn't worth it.
Well, I mean, you're preaching to the choir here. I mean, I've dealt with it here in my hometown all my life to a degree, and as I've gotten older, I've gotten quite a bit thicker-skinned and tougher about it, and it doesn't bother me as bad as long as it doesn't involve character integrity. I mean, golf. Someone wants to say you couldn't play, fine. Well, here's my resume. Where's yours? Well, you can't teach. Well, here's my resume. Where's yours? And if your resume's better than mine, well, you got a better resume than mine. You must be a better teacher. But when the slander and the innuendo and like I said earlier, it's a lot like American politics nowadays, or politics in general. I mean, when I watch BBC network and I see the zoos they go through over there. I mean, it's the same thing over there. It's so, to supposedly live in a civilized society, it is so uncivilized. And I mean, I would like to think in the African bush right now, different villages get along better than they do here in the United States, and we're supposedly civilized. So it's just the way it is, though. I mean, it really is. And and I know that when our book's out and websites are up, we're going to be a bigger target than we already are, and you're going to get some. You're going to get it. That's the way it is, because you've got guys that want to try to build themselves up by degrading or criticizing others. And I believe very strongly, as Faldo said it better than I can say it, because when Faldo went with Ledbetter and they totally rebuilt his golf swing in 85, 86, 87. Faldo was a Ryder Cupper and had led the Order of Merit over there. Was a tremendous player, and he recognized that his golf swing had some deficiencies that wouldn't allow him to win major championships. And so he and Ledbetter just totally tore it down, started over, and boy, they both caught a lot of grief, unmerciful grief. And Faldo said it better than I can say it. And in East Texas lingo, it's basically, the statement would be essentially here: them what can do, them what can't criticize. And I believe very strongly in that. When you see teachers out there criticizing other teachers, and they're, rather than, look, if you want to point out, in your opinion, why you disagree with a certain statement or a certain swing method or what you don't like about it, that's one thing. But when you take it to a whole new level, attempting to belittle others and try to make yourself look like you're the king of the golf world or whatever, I mean, it's a testament for how narcissistic you are. I don't even know how to describe it. Napoleonic complex, you know. It's just a testament to. I just believe very strongly that results are what matter. If you're a really good financial guy, then you should be able to show results for your clients. And if you're a good golf teacher, you should be able to show results for your students. If you're a really good algebra teacher, you should be producing kids that understand algebra or whatever. And in my business, I see it becoming more and more, just more and more about slick and and sexy and just BS. And I'm far from, I certainly don't know everything. I don't want to know everything, because if I do, it's going to get really boring. And you can always learn from others. But, the moment you think you know everything about any subject, you just really revealed your narcissistic insecurities. And you've definitely put two plugs in your ears. And once those plugs are in, you just quit listening, you just quit learning. And, I learn quite often from guys that are younger than me. Some of the guys I taught, they come up with ideas. They're really good, and so you as soon as you plug those ears, think you know everything. You just true character. And when I see guys out there, I've been the with the brunt of some of it, but not a lot, fortunately. But I'm sure we will once our book's out, all that stuff. But you just have to let it roll off your back, and you just have to take it from just analyze the person that said it or did it, and go from there. And there's no other way to deal with it. I mean, I'm not going to waste my time worrying about what some other instructor thinks of me or whatever it is I do, because that's not benefiting my students in any way. It's not benefiting my family. It's not benefiting me. There's nothing beneficial about it. It would take a lot to get me riled up. If I get riled up, I was raised by a pretty good prosecutor, and I can put together a pretty good case about a number of things. And but you just I just don't get all that riled up anymore. I just say I'm on my dad always told me, spend 50% of the time minding your business and 50% of the time keeping your nose out of everybody else's, and you got a full-time job. And I agree very strongly with that. I mean, take care of your own business and let others worry about theirs. But unfortunately, that's not the way it is. I mean, you have some guys, and I'm not mentioning names, but they literally want everyone to think that they are the most knowledgeable person there ever was about golf or whatever it is. I'm sure every element of life has that, whether it's a Baptist preacher or the leader of the atheist party or the Republican or Democrat or golf or tennis or picking bananas or whatever. I mean, somebody, there's always going to be somebody that wants to be acknowledged as the expert and the world's preeminent expert. But most of the time, those guys, rather than going through the process of earning that title, which is an incredibly subjective title anyway, they want to try to BS their way to it or degrade others. And I'm just not going to do that. I just don't believe in it. And if you disagree, fine. I mean, we can have a civil disagreement. And we just agree to disagree. And I've disagreed plenty with guys. I mean, I read something that I know is false. I'm not. A few years ago, I wasn't going to sit around and just let it slide by. I mean, I was going to say, no, I don't believe that, and this is why. It's IMOP, but in my opinion, because of this, and this, that isn't right. Now you got the techno junkies, the guys that are TrackMan and 3D motion analysis and on and on and on and on and on. I mean, you got guys taking video, and I laugh like crazy. They say, the club's got to come in from this position, and it must do this, and it must do that. Well, the only thing it must do is it must attack from the inside. Okay? That has to happen. It has to attack from inside the target line. If it attacks on too steep a plane, you're going to struggle playing as well as you're capable of. But what happens after it gets there and works through that golf ball, and how you went about getting there, there's any number of ways of achieving a successful impact and hitting the ball well. I don't know. I mean, I can go on and on for hours over this stuff. We already have practically put out before, and you have. But
I'm fine. I'm up late at night. I got to get a life sometimes. Yeah. So, do you have any parting shots anything you'd like to say in closure?
Well, I mean, not necessarily. I mean, number one, I really appreciate you giving me the opportunity to speak, you know, and for sure explain why I kind of disappeared when went AWOL from the internet, you know, because I get a lot of guys asking me, you know, for various reasons. I mean, I get a lot of emails still to this day, and a lot of them are very sincere. You know, I wish you'd come back, and then you get some of them that are just saying, hey, you know, you need to make money and let me build a site for you and all. But you know, it's just I just had reasons, and I said them earlier, and it's a great opportunity to say that, you know, and I'll be back to a degree, and for what it's worth. I mean, there's a lot of guys out there probably know a lot more than I do. And I just have my two bits to say here and there. You know, an opportunity to thank you for giving me the opportunity to do this, an opportunity to thank GolfWorks and the guys on the internet who really, really truthfully changed our lives for the better big time, and really helped me personally to crawl out of a pretty deep hole, because I was pretty down and out. I mean, I was still teaching and, you know, and doing a pretty good job what I do, but it was a rough spot, and to have fluked into the internet and the ability to you know, to help golfers is a blessing. I mean, that's the best thing to say. And you know, I just really want to thank folks for being so supportive, and you know, and for those that I've accidentally butchered their email or forgot to email them back or call them back, I'm sorry. I'm just the king of ADD, so please forgive me. And thank you again, Ralph, for giving me the opportunity and you know, to speak to you know, the viewers of your blog, because, and I'm very proud that it's been so successful. It doesn't surprise me, because when you see somebody's passionate about golf, they'll attract others that are you know, passionate about golf. And so, I mean, thank you very much in essence, and thank you to the folks that have changed our lives for the better.
Okay, well, you're kind of you know, sandbagging us here with your knowledge.
Well, I'd rather, as they say in politics, let's say I'd rather undersell and over-deliver. I mean, I guess that's the best way to do it. You never go wrong. But you know, but I also sincerely believe that you know, I don't know everything. I know my share, but I certainly don't know everything, and I don't want to know everything. You know, because like I said, it's going to get incredibly boring if you do. But what I do believe is you know, I'm pretty good at what I do, and if someone will listen and they're willing to pay the dues and put in the time and be realistic about you know, the possibilities for their game, because, you know, when you become an adult and you got all the responsibilities of an adult, life tends to get in the way of your development of your golf game. And but you know, it's I just feel very privileged to be able to do what I do. Honestly, I mean, it's been an incredible ride. I mean, to this point, if I died tomorrow, man, I've had a pretty good ride, and I might. I mean, the Lord don't promise you tomorrow, so it's been a